everyone, I am Vibha Chauhan and welcome to Chauhan classes for now clear. So from this video, I'm going to start the history of class 11th. Now if you guys have chosen Humanities in class 11th, then definitely history would be a mandatory subject. Now before starting the chapter, before discussing about class 11th history, let's talk about what we have studied in class 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. You know what, that in these classes we did talk about the history, but that was merely focused on the Indian history. Now you know what, that we talked about the ancient history of India, medieval history of India and modern history of India as well. But now we'll start a new journey in class 11th. Like our point of view would just be different. Like this book itself says that themes in the world history. In this class 11th, we'll study about the world history, how the things have been formed today are connected somehow to the past as well, and mainly we will see about the human behavior as well. Now you know what, that till now we have talked about many things in history, like Delhi Sultanate, the Mughal Empire, we talked about British period, colonial period, British rule over India, many revolutions, the French Revolution, Russian Revolution and the ancient history about different ages as well. So you could say that till now we have talked about Indian history and the contemporary world as well, but now we need to have a knowledge of the world history as well. Now in class 11th you have history as your subject, as a mandatory subject, and in history you have many sections, and the first section is early societies, in which you have two themes. Now first theme is that from the beginning of the time, and second is writing and city life. Now in early societies section we'll talk about the early societies, we'll talk about the how humans came onto the earth, about the human history, their behavior, and what they did in history in past, many years ago, many million years ago, what they did, what were their communication, how did they survive, like hunting, gathering, scavenging, collecting food and different types of things. And in second theme we'll talk about the writing and city life, we'll talk about a little bit modern time, you could say. So now in this video I'm going to talk about the first theme, that is from the beginning of time. So from the beginning of time. Now you know what, that in this class 11th we have sections and after that themes, not just chapters. Instead of chapters there are themes, as the book itself says, themes in the world history. Now from the beginning of time, from the beginning of time, what was there? How did the human appear on the earth? And even when they appeared on the earth, what were they like? It's not like they would just appear on the earth as we are today. There must be some differences as well. Now this chapter traces the beginning of time, the human existence on the earth, the human history we'll talk about in this chapter. We'll talk about that, you know what, that first human-like creatures appeared on earth around 5.6 million years ago. That is commonly known as MYA. Now MYA, that means million years ago. So first human-like creatures appeared on earth around 5.6 MYA, and what we say that, you know, that human beings resembling us that are referred as modern humans appeared on earth around 160,000 years ago. Now you know what, there are many species of human existence as well. There must be some modifications as well. Earlier there were some difference between them. You could say that they were walking on four legs. After that they became bipedal locomotion, and many changes were seen in human beings as well. That is why there are different species of human beings found by archaeologists, anthropologists. Anthropologists are the people who study about human, the completely human history, human past, about everything about human. So you could say that this chapter is related to anthropology as well. Now you know what, that there are many fossils. Because of fossils we find, you could say that there are many fossils found in the world about the human existence, about the early human existence, and on the basis of those fossils there can be some specification, some modification, and species of human existence as well, and in short which we call as human evolution. Now you know what, that through those kind of fossils that were found by us, you could say by the people around 200 years ago, that because of those, on the basis of those fossils, there is a theory of human evolution as well. Like there is a theory of human evolution, we have evoluted from animals a long time ago. But even in those, what happens that in many such cases there are many scholars who are opposite of that, like who used to be in oppose of that, because their testament felt that according to the testament of Bible, you could say that human existence was an act of creation by the God, and that is why many scholars were in oppose of those fossils about the human evolution, because you know what, that they were believing in their testament of the Bible about the creation of God, and that is why they were in oppose of that. But as there were many fossils, many finds after many years after, you could say that only then there, you could say their evidence, those evidence importance was realized. So the importance of all those finds were also realized later. It's not like you have just found many, you could say that many fossils and then just you'll study about it and then find it that how human evolved. It will take a long time, and if there is criticism, then it's very hard. Now there can be two things that can be done about the fossils, about their datings. Now fossils can be dated by direct chemical analysis or by dating the sediments in which they are buried. So as we can see their datings around which period of time they were buried, then we can say that around this period of time there were this species, and after that we have found these kind of fossils of different species in this period of time, so they reveal this kind of species living in this area in this period of time. So you could say that because of the dating back of all those fossils, we can also find about when they were buried and about the human specification, human evolution as well. Now on 24 November 1859 there was a theory of human evolution that came up by Charles Darwin, or you could say by his book, you could say, of which 1250 copies were sold just in one day, on the first day, and Charles Darwin gave the theory of evolution as well. So you could say that he argued that human had evolved from animals a long time ago. So that was correct in a sense as well. So you could say that in this chapter basically there will be everything about human evolution, about different species, genus, about everything that they did. And after that, let's start the chapter with the first topic, that is the story of human evolution. So the story of human evolution. Now story of human evolution is somewhat so complicated. It's not like it's so easy to trace everything, and the story of human evolution would definitely be so complicated as we have evaluated from many years ago and many times as well. Like according to, you know what, that even on the earth's surface it's earth, and because of climatic temperature change, climatic change, and many changes on the earth's surface, there is a thing that happens to humans as well. There will be some modification, change, impact on the human beings as well. Just suppose that you live in an area, and suppose just immediately out of the nowhere an earthquake comes up. What would be you doing? You would adapt to the condition and would just save yourself. So that happened in history as well, many years back ago as well. Now let's talk about the story of human evolution. The first part is that the precursors of modern human beings. So the precursors of modern human beings. Now let's talk about the story of human evolution, and that also will talk about the precursors, like the predecessors of the modern human beings. Now you know what, that just think about this vast span of time from 36 MYA, around 36 million years ago. Now there are many students who are confused about imagining such a vast span of time as well, like their timeline is just so confusing. So let me talk about it. Now suppose there's a book, and a single page of that book represents 10,000 years ago. Now that itself is a very big span of time, vast span of time. Then suppose that around 100 pages pages would you could say that would represent around 1 million pages, and to take 36 million pages it would be 3600 pages of book. So you could say that a book of 3600 pages that would represent 36 million years ago, and that was when primates came up. Primates that were mammals, you could say, that were a species of mammals, and they came about around 36 MYA, 36 million years ago, and around 24 MYA there were hominoids, a subgroup of primates that came up. So around 24 MYA there was subgroup of primates that were known as hominoids that came up, and so much later around 5.6 MYA a subgroup again came up that were known as hominids. Now again you have to see, if you don't understand, and go again to that part. Now you know what, that around 5.6 MYA there was subgroup that came up that were known as hominids. So although they were part of hominoids, they did share many things, but there were dissimilarities as well. Now you know what, that in hominids what happened, then there were similarities to hominoids, but many of the dissimilarities was also there. Like for example, their upright posture, their hands, their skull size, their brain size, their jaws lining, and you know what, that all those hominoids were quadrupedals, like they walked on four legs, on all the four limbs they were. And hominids were different, they were bipedal, they were doing bipedal locomotion, that is walking on 2 feet. So you could say that there were differences as well. It's not like that only if they are subgroup they will only share similarities. As they have come up so many years after, then definitely there would be many of the changes that can be seen in hominids. After that, there are also two theories given the African origin of hominids. First are that they are, you know what, that hominids include apes as well. We have apes as a species, you could say, as an example of hominids. Now you know what, that first theory is that in African origin, that hominids are just special apes found in Africa. And second is that Australopithecus, the fossils of Australopithecus, a genus of hominids, were found in Africa that date back to 5.6 million years ago. But all the fossils of Australopithecus found outside Africa were no older than 1.8 million years ago. So these are two theories given for that. Now hominids belong to a family that is known as Hominidae. Now family is all, you know, that in plants too we have families, and in history of course we will have. Now hominids belong to a family known as Hominidae, and hominids are also subdivided into groups that are known as genus, out of which two are very, very important, that are Australopithecus and Homo. Now first let's talk about Australopithecus. Now Australopithecus and Homo are somewhat different from each other. Like Australopithecus that were found around 5.6 million years ago according to fossils found in Africa. Now Australopithecus, if you talk about their similarities, then Australopithecus had larger skull size. They would have outward position of jaws as well. Jaws lining would be different, big lining would be there. There would be outer upright position as well. You could say that Homo were more civilized than Australopithecus. If you talk about Homo were more modified than Australopithecus. Of course, Australopithecus were found earlier than them, that is why Australopithecus were different from Homo. And you know what, that in Australopithecus that were found, there were some things that can be noted down as well. Like Australopithecus have, you know what, a scientist name all those species from Latin and Greek word. Now Australopithecus is formed with two words that are austral meaning sudden. Austral, that is a Latin word meaning sudden, and pithecus meaning ape in Greek language. So it means Australopithecus is equal to southern ape, as mainly their fossils were found in Africa. That is where they were known as southern ape. After that, you know what, that Australopithecus were adopted to live on trees. That is why their hands were like that. Their hands were not modified for making tools such like that. And you know what, that in Homo they were more modified. Their hands were more modified for making tools, and that we'll discuss later as well. Now Now Australopithecus were adapted to tree living, and that is why that they walked on four limbs as well. They walked on four legs as well. And that around 2 MYA, around 2 million years ago, around the time period of glaciation, or what we call ice age in simple language, what happened that everywhere there would be so much grasslands, and there will be temperature and climatic change over the earth's surface. You could say that because of ice age, of course there would be so much change, and that is why Australopithecus could not survive to that, could not adapt themselves in that conditions. That there would be snow everywhere, and as they were modified on living trees, but now there will be only grasslands, and that is why they could not survive longer. Now in Homo, we have talked about Australopithecus, and recently, around some days ago, there were new finds of Australopithecus fossils in South Africa in Steenkop caves. Like in case of South Africa, they were found. So you could say that they are also very important from the perspective of exams as well. Now when we talk about Homo, that is a Latin word meaning men, although there were women as well in that groups. Now Homo have been subdivided, are grouped, you could say, by scientists according to the work they did, according to their, you could say that according to the work, according to their everything, you could say. Now out of them were Homo habilis. Now Homo habilis were the tool maker, Homo erectus were the upright man, you could say Homo sapiens were the wise or the thinking man. So you can say that they have been divided by the scientists according to the work they performed. Now there are different fossils of different groups as well. Like Homo habilis have been found in, you could say that in Homo region of Ethiopia. Homo erectus have been found in Asia and Africa in both, and Homo sapiens mainly in Africa and Europe. So you could say that there are many countries, like in Tanzania there are fossils found, in Ethiopia as well. Like from the perspective of fossils that were found, these are very important regions as well. Now in Germany as well, there is Olduvai Gorge where they are found. Olduvai Gorge, that is a gorge near a city called Dusseldorf of Germany. So you could say that in Germany as well. Now that different species of hominids are differentiated based in their bone structure, like what is their brain size, the skull size, the jaw lines, the teeth size. Everything matters in the bone structure, and this may have evolved due to what we call as positive feedback mechanism. Now in positive feedback mechanism, like for example, if there is Australopithecus, like any hominid, take any genus of hominid, and that human being is using his hands for carrying infants and objects, then definitely because of using hands more and more, he would have upright walking. That is, he would not try bipedal locomotion, and as he tries bipedal locomotion, he would try like hunting and those kind of things. Then he will leave the trees as well. So you could say that all these things are connected to each other. This is a kind of positive feedback mechanism. He has started one thing, and these are interdependent, these are correlated to each other, like scavenging, hunting, gathering is connected with upright walking, that is connected to bipedal locomotion, that is connected to many other things. So you could say that this is what we call positive feedback mechanism, on the basis of which there is evolution among the characteristics of different species of hominids as well. Now you could say that Australopithecus and Homo. Now Homos have a larger brain size and have like a smaller teeth, and you could say good position, you could say good shape of all those jaws as well. That may be because of dietary habits. Like Australopithecus had different diet and Homos have different diet. Now when we talk about Homo, there can be another classification among them as well, on the basis of where they are found. Like for example, all the Homo fossils found in Heidelberg city of Germany are known as Homo heidelbergensis, and all those Homo fossils found in Neanderthal Valley of Germany are known as Homo neanderthalensis. So they can be named upon where the first place where they were found. Now when we talk about Homo heidelbergensis, you could say found in Europe over a large part, in Tanzania, Kenya and Ethiopia. We have many fossils found in Europe, like in Germany. And for Neanderthalensis, Homo neanderthalensis, they are found in Europe and Africa and Asia as well, mainly in Asia and Europe as well. So you could say that they are found in these three continents. Around, you could say, 130,000 years ago to 35,000 years ago. Now, around 35,000 years ago, these species were abruptly disappeared. There might be some causes like ice age, many other things as well. So there are many causes behind their disappearance as well. It's not like they became just extinct. There must be reasons behind it as well. So you could say that is the precursors of the modern human beings. Now the next subtopic that we have here is modern human beings. So modern human beings. Now I know what that when you look at the findings of fossils of Homo sapiens or the archaic Homo sapiens. Archaic, that means old Homo sapiens, because you know what, that Homo sapiens later became the modern humans that we are. Like you could say that Homo sapiens we are like an archaic Homo sapiens are the old Homo sapiens. Now when you find about the findings about Homo sapiens, then the first one fossils of Homo sapiens were found in Africa. Now this raises a question that is Africa the only origin point of all those human existence, or there is regional continuity, or there are many regions behind it? You could say that many regions are behind the origin of human existence. Now there are two arguments or kind of theories given behind it. First one is that is of replacement, that is Africa is the only one origin of all the human beings. Second is regional continuity model, that means that all regions have did have human existence. It's not like Africa is the only origin of all those human beings. Now, according to regional continuity model, you know what that this says that according to this model that all people have their origin like different places, different continents, and that is why there are dissimilarities among them as well, like their color, there are many dissimilarities among the people of different continents, aren't there? So that must be because of regional continuity model, like they have been evolved, but they have been there is not just one origin. Whereas on the other hand, the replacement model says that there is total replacement, like Africa is the only one origin, like around the world people have similarities among them as well, that is because they had the same origin, and that has been proved through, you could say, homogeneity and many other reports as well. You know what, that you could say that according to replacement model, what happens there, that all over the world there are dissimilarities among the people because they have adopted over a long span of time ago. They have they have migrated to other parts of the world and have adapted to that, and there is an effect on them as well because they are a part of the whole population. So there are two kind of things like that are replacement model and the regional continuity model. After that, we have the next topic, that is early humans. So early humans. Now we have talked about the human existence. We have talked about like the fossil findings of human existence. Now what about the behavior? Like how did they survive in that era? What they did what were the ways of obtaining food? What they did? Were they hunter-gatherers? And if they were, then hunter-gatherers present today, can we find any information from them about the past? Well, let's talk about that early humans with the first subtopic under this topic, that is ways of obtaining food. So ways of obtaining food. Now let's talk about the early humans. And in early humans, now till now we have been talking just about the skeletal remains of early humans, like about their existence, like their genus Australopithecus and Homo, and we have just talked about skeletal remains of human, you could say that of human existence or maybe human history. But now let's talk about how they survived as well, like early humans, and one way is that what were the ways by which they obtained their food? How did they survive with food? Now there could be different ways of obtaining food by the early humans, that may be hunting, gathering, scavenging, foraging, many other things, collecting, and those fishing as well. So you could say that there are many evidences over the sites all over the world that show that early humans did practice these things that were the ways of obtaining food. Now gathering would include the gathering of fruits, nuts, berries, and all like plant products and many other things as well. Now we have found, archaeologists have found the fossil plant, you could say that fossils of many animals, of bones you could say, but fossilized plants are very relatively rare. You could say that they are relatively very rare. Well, one cause could be that they were accidentally burned. As they are accidentally there, when they are burnt, those fossils are burnt, they would be carbonized and can be preserved for a long span of time. But even the carbonized seeds have not been found. They are also relatively very rare. So you could say that there must be some reason behind it as well. Like we haven't found the answers of all the questions of the history. In history there remains some unanswered questions as well. Over time there are modifications, there are many changes. Over science we find new discoveries, and through those discoveries there are modifications in the earlier theories as well. And now you know what, that in recent times there is a term that is hunting that is being discussed by the scholars now. Now hunting, you could say that earlier it wasn't a planned hunting, it must be an assumed plan, you could say assumed hunting. Now by scholars it has been that early humans foraged or scavenged for meat and marrow from the carcasses of animals which were naturally killed, which naturally died or were killed by their other predators. Well, the same goes for, there is equal proportion that early humans consume small mammals like rodents, birds and their eggs as well, reptiles, and even insects such as termites. So there are equal possibility of those things to happen as well. After that, there is clear evidence of hunting about 500,000 years ago from two sites, that are Box Grove in England, which is around 500,000 years ago, and you could say that in Box Grove there is 500,000 years ago, and we have another that is also regularly in Kenya as well, that is around 400 years ago. So there are many signs over the world about the findings, discoveries of history as well. Now fishing was also done by the people as over many sites along with the river. In many sites we have found the bones of fish as well. That must be because they have been eaten by the early humans. Now clear evidence of hunting, the planned hunting, is from 35,000 years ago. Like we have talked about the hunting, but what about the planned hunting? That is around 35,000 years ago in Dolly Westernist region of, you could say, of Czech Republic in Europe. Now you might know where that Czech Republic is, and in Dolly Westernist there is a river flowing. In that river there must be animals like reindeer and horses across, you could say, in the months of autumn and spring for their migrations, and that is why those early humans chose that place, because it must be because they knew about the movement of all those animals, and it was a planned hunting as well, as they already knew about the movements of animals, about many other things as well. So you could say that these were the ways of obtaining food by the early humans. We have found evidences as well over many years ago that are like, they are very, very, very old by the archaeologists that have been proven. After that, we have the next subtopic about the early humans, that is from trees to caves and open air sites. So from trees to caves and open air sites. Now when we talk about the early humans, now as you already know that the early humans used to live on the trees, like obviously naturally they would live on the trees, but how did the changes go on? Like we have found evidences in sites about their livings, about their shelters in caves and open air sites as well. Now earlier they used to live on trees as they could find fruits and those other things on the trees. And you know what, that early humans, when we talk about their shelter, about their residence, their evidence as well, like from 400 to 125 years ago, in France there is a shelter that has been found in caves, like you could say in Lazarette caves of France around, you could see that they have been found a 12 into 4 meter long shelter, like 12 into 4 shelter that had been built along against the wall of the cave, so that those people, those early humans could live. And in that shelter there are evidences of 2 huts, about nuts, about fruits and animal, you could say animal bones, animal fossils, and many other fossils evidences as well. Again in France, in another case, there were other you could say other evidences of again the shelters as well. So you could say that these happened because now people were changing, adapting themselves to other areas as well. Like we have found that abundant you know what, that in when we talk about the early humans, we have found evidences like thousands of flake tools have been found. Flake tools and axes have been found in Kenya region, in Columbia region of Kenya. How could it be possible if they lived on trees? That must be because they have changed themselves and now they were making tools for themselves as well. Now hearts is also evidence. Heart, that means that there was a controlled use of fire as well. Now fire that could help the early humans for light in the caves, for cooking food, and for you could say that for saving themselves from dangerous animals as well. Like they could scare away those dangerous animals as well. According, another use of fire could be to harden the wood for the spears. Like for example, in wooden spears we have to harden the wood. That can be done by the fire as well. So you could say that we have found evidences of many flake tools, hand axes in Kenya region. That means that it must be like earlier in history, in past many years ago, it must be like that people now went in search of food, and whenever there were regions where there were abundant sources of food, there would be so many people going on, and whenever they went there, they would leave some traces as well. That is why as so many people went there, there would be so many traces left behind, and over years they would be under the surface. And in those regions where there were less food items, less sources for their survival, obviously they would not go so much in those regions, and that is why there are less traces. So you could say that is anticipated, or you could say that is predicted by the archaeologists, and that is right too. Like if we talk about it in logically, it is a correct statement if we talk about it. So you could say that early humans that moved from trees to caves and from caves to open air sites as well, so that they would fill their life as well, like they had to live for themselves as well. Now the next subtopic that we have here is making tools. So early humans making tools. Now making tools was also one of the profession done by the early humans. Now as all of you know that they were making stone tools for many purposes, for hunting, gathering, and many more purposes. Now one thing that you have to notice is that making tools is not confined to just humans. There are birds who use who do make tools for feeding their younger ones, for hygiene, for making nests, and in many cases apes like chimpanzees use tools as well for hunting, you could say, and for their protection, you could say. But what differs from the making tools of all those apes and of humans is that making tools needs a kind of lot of very complex settlement and a longer memory of those settlements as well. That is what is not in apes. That is why human making skill of tools is different from that of apes. So you could say that tools were also made, stone tools were also made by the early humans, and we have evidences for it as well. Like we have different hand axes, different flake tools, different spear bowls, and many other things. And around 35,000 years ago, there were like new techniques developed of making the tools. Like spear bows were now being made, and the bow and the arrow were now developed. Now there must be some questions rising in your mind that by which people were these tools were used. Like only men used, did the women use too? Like there are evidences that women could use too for feeding their for obtaining food and feeding their younger ones, for feeding their children. So there are some reasons behind, there is some explanation behind those causes as well. And around 35,000 years ago there were new techniques developed of making tools, through which now obtaining more meat was easier, and now when meat was obtained, its bone were released, and now it could be preserved for more time, for a longer time, you could say, compared to before. It is evidenced by the archaeologists. After that, there is another case of sewing clothes. Like clothes were also very important for the human beings, and the first evidences of sewing clothes being used by the early humans are from 21,000 years ago. That is why, as new techniques developed, now there were many traps for you could say that for bearing animals, and so for making clothes. So you could say that now those animals were also trapped, so that from their fur new clothes could be made for the human beings, for the early humans. It's not like that they would make the synthetic fibers, they would have to keep it from the animals, from the fur bearing animals. It's not like that. If that animal doesn't have any fur, then how would they make clothes for themselves? So you could say that is about the early humans making tools. After that, we have the next topic, that is modes of communication, language and art. So modes of communication, language and art. Now among all the living beings, humans are the only ones with language that can speak. It's not like they can't, other animals can't express their feelings, but the language is confined to humans. So you know what, that there are many explanations behind the language developed by the humans as well. First is that hominids had the language and it got developed over time. Second is that they had a verbal language but with non-verbal communication. They did have, the early humans had language with vocal tract but with the non-verbal communication like singing and humming and with gestures as well. Another thing is that, you know what, that when we talk about the language must be developed. If there was language, it is like where we have found, the archaeologists have found the evidence in Homo habilis fossils that they could speak too. So that means that around 2 MYA, that is 2 million years ago, there were some the people, early humans could speak even that over a long span of time ago. But you know what, that vocal tract matters too. Like if there isn't that much vocal tract, then how would the language go on? Language has to be developed as well. If I'm talking to you, it is because of the language. So the vocal tract has to be developed as well. That must be done around 200,000 years ago. Now another explanation is that language must be developed completely around 40 to 35,000 years ago, as at the same time when the art developed. You know what, that art and language are considered jointly as both are the modes of communication. Arts, when we talk about art, we have many things. Paintings painted around 30,000 years ago to 12,000 years ago in many of the caves like Altamira in Spain, in Lascaux and Chauhan in France. So we have many cave paintings in these regions as well. And you could say that these are the paintings of ibex, bears, lions, panthers, mammoths, many kind of other animals as well. Now you could say that there are many questions that might be rising in your mind, that why only these animals have been chosen for the painting, and why in those paintings, you know what, that men would be painted as in the groups and individually as well, but women would be grouped, women would be painted only in the group but not individually. Why were these places specifically chosen by the early humans for painting? What were the reasons? Now there are some explanation provided that we can't just find everything, but we do have some explanations. You know what, that in early times it is believed by the archaeologists that it must have gone like that. Now in early times what would happen is that there were many groups, many groups of early humans, many hunting societies and those kind of things. Now they wanted to hunt animals, and there must be a ritual. Like there were many tribes in earlier times, and there must be a ritual and magic as well. Like when they painted the animal which they wanted to hunt, they would paint the animal on the cave wall, and they would think that from this they would be blessing for a successful hunt. So it was a kind like of a ritual and a kind of magic, you could say. After that, there were many tribe groups, so they wanted to meet for the information passing, so that they would make their own strategies. So they would paint the walls for passing that information to the next generation as well. So you could say that provided that there are many things that could be, we can't just find everything around here, but yeah, we do have some explanations. So you could say that we have modes of communication that are language and art that were very, very important from the way, you could say that from the perspective of exams as well. After that, the next topic here is that early encounters with hunter-gatherers in Africa. So early encounters with hunter-gatherers in Africa. Now there is a story given of encounter by a local tribe of a tribal community in 1870 with Kangsan. Now Kangsan, that is a tribal hunter-gathering community of Kalahari Desert. Now that hunter says that when their people go to that village, that sand, they would find a strange footprints. All those people of Kangsan were afraid of them. Whenever they went to their villages, all the villages' rooms were empty as they hid, and seeing all those people from stranger groups, they would say that, oh hi, they have come, like they were very scared, and that is why it was very easy to rule the Kangsan. So you could say that these were early encounters with the hunter-gatherer societies. Well, we will read more about hunter-gatherer societies, about encounters with them in theme 8 and in theme 10. Now the next topic of this chapter is hunter-gatherer societies from the present to the past. So hunter-gatherer societies from present to the past. Now there must be a very, very important question rising from your mind, and I've talked about it as well. We have so many hunter-gatherer societies nowadays as well. So can we get any information about the past from those hunter-gatherer societies? It is a very important question, and there are two opposing views on this given by many scholars. First one is that archaeologists have said that there must be some traces with past as well. Like they have found some fossils around Lake Turkana, and they are thinking that there must be some hunter-gatherers living, as even in present day they are living and Kangsan besides the riversides, and that is why they were saying that there must be some hunter-gathering societies living there. So you can say that first view is that hunter-gatherer societies, as the way they are living now, is connected to the past as well. Like everything that we find has to be connected to the present day hunter-gathering societies. But second view is that now not everything we can connect to the past. These two are the different things. Like we can't just on the basis of ethnographic study can divide it. Ethnographic study, that is the difference and the study of ethnic groups composition, about based on different language, tradition, culture, those kind of things, groups, genders, where they live as well. So their perspective is that nowadays hunter-gatherers, besides hunting-gathering, do something else as well, like exchanging products produced with traders, doing as paid laborers in farmers farmland. In many they are doing other economical activities as well. So we can't just say that everything in present that is now is past. We can't just say that fossils found are exactly like what is happening in present. There are differences as well. That is what we can say, that there are two opposing views only from hunter-gatherer societies. Well, it is correct. We can't just connect the present to the past, can we? There will be some changes obviously among the people as well. Even today we want to find some information about the hunter-gatherer societies, and when we talk to them, do they really open up? No, they don't, obviously. So you can say that is about it. After that we have the epilogue of the next chapter, that is epilogue. Now you know what, that we have talked about everything about the related to anthropology. Anthropology is a discipline study of human, about human biology, evolution, about everything about humans. Male is connected to history as well. So you could say that now we have talked about it, cultural fragments, about the communication, art and language and those kind of things. Now around the year of 10,000 years ago and 4,500 years ago, there were now agriculture coming up. That could be because around 13,000 years ago the last ice age came up. After that there were many grasslands, and with that barley could be grown, many crops could be grown, and that is why people now were adapting. Now they saw that they preferred more grasslands, and grasslands were there. As there were so many grasslands, obviously there will be some animals like cattle, sheep, these kind of animals more and more. Now people started to domesticate these animals as well. Around the year of 10,000 years ago to 4,500 years ago, there were domestication of these animals, sheep, dogs, these kind of things, and agriculture, farming came up as well. Around the time there were more like permanent settlements coming up. Now people now preferring as more and more grasslands, they would domesticate those animals and would start farming up. Now they were doing permanent settlements as they were seeing that it was very important. And as the time passed, there was like city life came up and everything came up. Now in the next chapter, we will talk about the writing of city life. What was the city life like? How did the things change? And you know that permanent settlements came up. So there were many things going on. So the next chapter would be related to this, about the farming, about, you could say that, about how did the city life came up, city life and farming life. Like permanent settlements came up. Many people began to do this, and we have like Harappan civilization. Civilization were now being established, and that will discuss in the next chapter. So that is all we have discussed in theme 1 in this chapter. Like that is from the beginning of our time we have already discovered. We have talked about the skeletal remains about Australopithecus and Homo. In Homo we had Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens that we are today. After that we discussed about the locations as well, about communication, art as well, about anthropology, ethnographic studies as well, and different things we did talk about in this chapter. So that is all I have covered in this chapter. I have covered all the topics and subtopics, and the next themes of this history will be covered in the further upcoming videos. So stay tuned for the upcoming videos. Thank you very much.